Happy Easter. Happy Easter. Thank you all for pulling up to the Sooner or Later podcast, our live show. We appreciate you coming here on this Easter Sunday. Hopefully you got what you wanted from the Easter Bunny or got to search for eggs or whatever the crazy stuff people do nowadays. But thanks for pulling up. While you're here, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe and share. Why? Because sharing is caring. And if you're listening to the audio version of this, go ahead and rate us, review us, and give us 5 stars. You don't think we deserve it? Just give us 5 anyway and gift it. So we've got a great show ahead for you all and a special guest that's going to join us today. And so the things we're going to dive into are the most recent commitment. You know, we got to talk more in depth on that and get your questions and answer whatever we can from you all, the listeners. And then we'll, of course, dive into the running back room. Time to really look at what this room really looks like as we prepare for the spring game and then going into the regular season. And then we'll also, do Q&A and talk through recruits and all of that jazz. So without further ado, let me bring in a special guest. Our boy Chris, a regular family member or whatnot from the Horns Down podcast. Chris, tell the people where they can find you.
Hey, look, Horns Down podcast. We're back live in the rig. You can catch us on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts at. Definitely do that. Be on the lookout for us. Tuesday, we're going to be doing a show. And
Awesome. Yeah. We've been getting some stuff brewing. I know Chris has got some stuff prepared as we, like I said, make it through spring game and get through all of this summer stuff because it looks like we're in commitment season. Stuff is coming down the line, man. So outside of that, Chris, man, how's your Easter Sunday going so far?
Man, it's been pretty chill, man. Great sermon today, so I'm ready to get back to it.
That's what's up. And same, got to relax, got some stuff taken care of around the crib, and now we are ready to really rock and roll and talk about these recruits, man, because I know that I am pretty excited about the most recent commit. And Chris, we didn't get to really talk a lot about it over the weekend, but Saturday, let's lead it off. Michael Hawkins gave us a commitment. We got our quarterback, guys. We've got the 4-star quarterback out of Frisco. Emerson has committed to Oklahoma, committed to us over TCU. Dropped a video on it right afterwards because I anticipated that we were going to win this sweepstakes. Chris, did you have any doubts that we were going to win the Michael Hawkins sweepstakes?
Not necessarily. Whenever I saw that TCU picked up a commitment early last week or mid last week, I want to say, I thought all signs pointed towards this. He's a legacy. And then also, I think with what Levy is trying to do, obviously people can say essentially him and he and Browse run the same system, but I think they have their own spin, their own variation on it, on what they really want to do at times, but at the same time, I think that just what OU is building and trying to get to, I think that it just, I don't know. I just didn't see him going to TCU. I think that it would have been a great story. It would have been a great pickup for them, but I didn't see. But at the same time, in this transfer portal, this NIL era, you never know. Okay.
And that's very true.
Yeah. At the same time, I thought it was a good pickup for us, man. Honestly, Drew and I wouldn't say we were critical early on, but at the same time, we think that he's a really good athlete playing quarterback. Changed my mind. Okay, that's all I really have to say. We went and got a top prospect out of that DFW area who's going to attract a lot of talented, teammates, talented peers as well in that community or whatnot. And we're heavy in that area right now. We're picking up a lot of commits out of that area, and I think there's more on the way. Right. So
yeah. That
being said, I think it's one of those things where, and like I said, guys, Tuesday, check us out, Horns Down Podcast. But if Jay joins, then definitely check us out because Jay, I have a lot to add to that. But this quarterback dynamic, this shift that you're seeing now from going from getting the best available quarterback or what you would consider to be the best quarterback in the nation every other year in the Riley regime to now in the Levy regime, you're getting a top quality quarterback out of each class, So the thing is that, don't get me wrong, Jackson Arnold is a good athlete, but I don't know if he's the type of athlete that this kid is, And I know a lot of people are quick to try to compare him to Kyler. I'm not there yet. got to see it on the field because Kyler, even in high school, was different. Okay, and coming into his freshman season at Texas A&M, he showed you flashes of it. It wasn't until he got here to OU until he actually really developed into what he was.
Fair.
At the same time, like I said, I'm really excited about the commitment. It's a great commitment for us, great pickup. Obviously, what he adds is something that we didn't have last year necessarily, which is competition to that. Okay,
Depth.
yeah.
Depth.
And so that's something else that you're looking at as well. Because the thing is that I think we're all, and he hasn't even really thrown a legitimate snap yet. We're all really bullish and sold on Jackson Arnold. Now you get a high 4-star kid in in the Hawkins kid who you think is okay. Hey, he could develop himself into a pretty damn good quarterback and compete for that position. For that starting position. But Davis Bevel, General Booty, I just don't know. And
So
go ahead.
To jump in on that, and I'm pretty excited about talking about the quarterback position, especially next week when we break down the depth that we have. But real quick preview on that. I think Booty's going to end up being the guy right behind Gabriel this year. I think he's ready finally. I don't think he has the eye issue this time around, even though I think he does have a finger issue. But I do think that a year in the system will actually have real depth in comparison to having a guy go out there and figure it out on the whim. You know what I'm saying? I think that was a problem we ran into with Bevel and Booty. And then even Nick Evers, the good thing about having Gabriel was that he knew the system day one, but he was literally the only person on the team that knew the system day one. And so a lot of adjustments have to be done on that part. But no, you're right. Getting Michael Hawkins. And honestly, I think we're going to get a second quarterback in this class. I don't think we're going to stop at one. I think I did read that we did tell them, the quarterbacks, that we plan on going with 2. And going with 2 is a big deal to me because that shows that we're really competing like the big boys. So let's talk about these commitments piece, right? The struggle is there when it comes to commitments and getting players to go ahead and sign on the line, which is dotted immediately. And the real big reason is that we're actually recruiting at a very high level against all the top dogs. So we're battling the Bamas, the Georgias, those teams that usually get the high profile players because we're a threat. Ohio State, hell, they're wide receiver U right now, but I think that we're leaning towards getting back to QBU with who we have, especially going from Jackson Arnold right into Michael Hawkins and whoever else we bring in. And honestly, if the wide receivers know the system well enough and they're adjusting the way that they need to adjust and Emmett Jones gets them prepared the way that we hope he does, man, Dylan Gabriel could almost throw for 4,000. He could be in the Heisman conversation. Not saying that he will be, but if he goes up there and throws for 4,000 yards and he puts up over 30-something touchdowns, he will be in that conversation.
I think Dylan Gabriel's only problem last year was the fact that there was 2 things. One, they didn't let him run, which I'm not going to say is a bad thing, but they didn't really let him run all that much, in my opinion. What this offense, can allow the quarterback to do.
And he can scoot. He can scoot though. He can go. We watched him run 67 yards on Nebraska.
He can. Nebraska.
We'll talk about it when we go through the running backs. I'm gonna show you the running yards this season, and we'll talk about that part.
Let's leave it at that. But the other thing that hurt him, in my opinion, this is just me playing Monday morning quarterback, but or couch quarterback. Look, from a technical standpoint, it just wasn't there. The mechanics weren't there all the time on some of those throws that you wanted to see. He made some amazing throws throughout the season. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to say that it's all on him, but I think that it's just one of those things where he's got to get on the same page as some of those receivers and be able to keep drives alive. I think another thing that actually hurt them as well, I would say, is the fact that Levy just couldn't make his mind up about the tempo of the game. And what I mean by that is just game management, not only in the crucial parts of the game, but early on when we're out there going at blazing speed and you're like, look, let's work the field, but
I was critical of that all year. That was probably the one qualm I had with what we were doing 100%. So no, I get you.
But I think that I think that what you saw in Florida State, and I've said this on Ty's podcast, I said this on mine, and now I'm saying it on yours. If you look and see what they did in that Florida State game, that's how Dylan Gabriel becomes a true weapon by
Yeah.
relying on that run game. Because then after that, he can spread you out. That offense will spread you out, and then it will be dangerous. Then it will look like the Brow system of pass, the Baylor's of pass.
Yeah.
That's how
That
you get
Baylor
it
system.
going.
Whoo,
Mhm.
boy.
That's how you're going to get it going. But no, directly to answer your question directly, look, Michael Hawkins is a great pickup simply because why? Um, People say if people are saying that his ceiling is Kyler Murray, then why can't his floor be a Corral, right? And I'm not talking about Corral, going out there doing Corral things. I'm just saying, look, he can be just as mobile as that kid is, and he can make the throws that he needs to in this system.
Fair.
This system allows quarterbacks that have gone under the radar, so to say, to actually come out there and be really, really damn good. And I know there's a lot of haters out there, or a lot of naysayers that will say, "Hey, he wasn't calling plays. It was all, gosh, what's his name out there at Ole Miss? You know what I'm talking about, the head coach."
Are you talking about Lane Kiffin?
Yeah, yeah.
The
A lot of
Lane
people say,
train.
yeah, Kiffin was the one drawing those plays and all the rest of that. But I'm still like, hey, Levy had a play and all that. He's not just a crash dummy going out there and just having a headset on. No, he's heavy in the game planning. So that's my whole
Top
thing.
13 offense tells you right there that Levy had something to do with
Yeah,
something.
and my whole thing is that with Matt Corral, I mean, look, that was they weren't tight just for any other reason,
Right.
So that's what I'm happy about is that with a guy like Jackson Arnold, who is I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's a willing runner. I'm not going to say he's a really athletic kid, but he's a willing runner, kind of like Baker was. But then a guy like Michael Hawkins, like I said, right now, I feel like he's more of an athlete playing quarterback, but at the same time, not mad at it at all.
No, that's fair. And you're fair with that. I think that having this additional depth with Hawkins, I personally, I don't see Gabriel coming back next year. I think at this point it'll be best for him to go ahead and head to the league unless he decides to transfer as a grad. But I do see him going ahead and try to go pro. I see them trying to get his numbers inflated enough to where he makes himself an NFL prospect. He can do it. He has pretty good accuracy. I mean, he completed 60-something% of his passes this past season, and he can whenever he's in the right situation where like he's not stressed at the fact that in head coaching isn't and offensive coordinators aren't stressed that hey, we don't want him to get hurt because we have nothing behind him right now. But the additional depth is a good thing. So having him, Jackson Arnold, I mean, bringing in Michael Hawkins as well. I like that Hawkins decided to follow his father's footsteps, but do it at a different position on the opposite side of the ball. So he kind of made mention that he's kind of setting his own path while at the same time, being that legacy and coming in. So let's jump into some of these comments really quick. Thank you all for pulling up as usual. I believe that we have about 22 likes with about 85 viewers. Go ahead and hit that like button for your boy. Help us out. Doug asked a pretty solid question. Chris, I want to ask you this one. Who do you think Hawkins is bringing with him?
Obviously, I think the tight end down there. I think that's pretty much a given at
Yeah,
my
there you got that one.
at this point right now. As far as anybody else, I'm not really sure because I mean that Dallas area is so connected, but at the same time, it doesn't have to be necessarily. But that's the kid for sure, and I would love to get that kid if we can. I thought that he was going to be a Georgia lock, but like I was telling my aunt this morning, I was like, hey. It's like, with Georgia picking up as many tight ends as they are, it's going to be a lot of room for tight ends in our system or whatnot. And so that would be a guy. But, he's been at practices. He's been at a lot of places. He's talked about OU being his leader, all of that stuff. So, I mean, I think all signs really indicate that that's a kid that's on your radar heavy. And if he reclassifies, I mean, that's even better, But you're hoping that I think what you're hoping for in the tight end room, and this is me spatting off at the mouth, but I think what you're hoping for with this tight end room is that Stogner comes in and has a great year and balls out, but you see Caden Helms really start taking over late in the season as far as being, the heir apparent. And then I think that you hope that then you have another guy that steps up on that roster as well, whether it's Lelvin or this new kid, this Mitchell
Right.
kid that can come out there and be a tight end as well.
Yeah, I'm curious at the wide receiver side. I've been seeing a lot of stuff linking to us with 4-star. Well, 24/7 has him ranked at 5-star and the number 9 player in the country right now. But overall, he's a consensus 4-star. Bryant Westco over there at I'm not even gonna try to pronounce the city, Midlothian, Texas. Right now on 3 has TCU, but it 24/7 has him very much leaning towards Oklahoma. I think he's one player we could bring in, and he'd be one that would be attracted with Hawkins to come play. And I know Hawkins made mention of a few players he wants. Of course, Mitchell. He mentioned Caden Durham out of Duncanville. He wants Caden Durham to come, which I would love to have that 10-4-1 speed to be in our backfield.
Mm-hmm.
He's recruiting Stoney. He mentioned that. And then Max Anderson, the offensive tackle there in Texas, that he wants to come here as well. So we've got a few players that he is definitely going after or whatnot. And so
with that wide receiver that you mentioned, we've got to get guys like that. We've got to get more guys like that have that speed. A lot of people just say, "Hey, look, I get it's the Levy system. It's let's be real. It's the Baylor system. It's the Brow system." At the end of the day, man, the KD, I can't think KD Cannon, guys like that. They had some burners out there, but they had guys that could go and ball out.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing is that I'm excited to get to that point where you have a Petaway on the outside, and then you have a guy like that, the West Coast kid or whatnot that you're talking about. When you have Blazers, on each side of the ball. That you're just like, okay, they can go inside, they can go out, and we can be versatile with that. Like I can't wait till we get that, and then to have the height that you would have with like a Nick Anderson or Jaden Gibson once they come on. It's gonna look real different around here pretty soon, whenever things are actually clicking.
No, I agree with you there, and we've got a lot of other potential players coming through that I know Hawkins is probably recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm stoked about it. That's always some excitingness going down. So let's jump and move forward. Before we do that, of course, we do some housekeeping. Hit that like button, folks. Hit that share button on social media. Pass it around the family. Tell them to join us for the conversation. We're going to chop it up, go through some of the comments, and really dive into a lot of this recruiting before we wrap things up in the last 30 minutes and go really into the running back room, because I know that's going to be a fun conversation that I know all of you want to jump into. But as far as recruiting news and updates, besides we getting this commitment, we missed out on, of course, Aaron Flowers, the safety out of Forney, Texas. He's a monster of an athlete, and he went to Oregon. Now, I was going to make a video on this. I probably still will, but you guys will get a sneak preview for those that already watched. So everybody else will have to watch this separately to understand and hear what I got to say. But I'm fascinated that he picked Oregon over USC when USC was so favored up until the last day.
Yeah.
And the fact that we're in a battle for a safety for the second year in a row at Oregon is hilarious to me. I'm curious to if we're going to continue to pursue him and try to flip him before signing day. What's your thoughts on that?
I wouldn't be surprised with this staff, man. Look, obviously we could talk about Peyton Bourne, but let's just talk about let's just make it more of a general conversation. This staff believes in relationships. And so the whole thing is that, you don't know what promises, you don't know what was spoken about, what was spoken for with Oregon and Flowers. You don't know exactly what's all there. So if something goes different, something goes south, then boom, he reopens his commitment. He's back out there. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think that's going to be an NIL deal, but you never know. But at the same time, it's similar to a lot of players. This happens every year. Somebody commits early, and then at some point the talks break down. Something happens. Some kid transfers, some kid jumps into the transfer portal, and then you're just like, okay, I see what's going on. I was the highly touted 4 or 5 star composite 5 star, whatever you want to say, and then boom, now I'm not. It's you guys are going very senior. You're getting a lot of seniors, a lot of upperclassmen, and so I'm not scared to compete. But the promise was that hey, you're going to get a shot to be a day one guy. So
Yeah.
I don't know. You never know. So I mean, I think it's just really too early to tell. Obviously, I think we still want the kid or whatnot, but at the same time, don't think that they're not recruiting other guys as well that could come in and contribute. I mean, you got to think about it with the Colton Vasek thing or whatnot. This staff doesn't really worry me with that. You lose Colton Vasek, but then you go and pick up Taylor Wine.
Taylor Wine. Yeah. Taylor Wine. Yeah. Which, ooh, he's a freak. Body
has
wise,
a
dude's a
chance to be a
freak.
stud, who has a chance to be a stud. So I mean that's just where I'm at with it.
Yeah.
I
And
don't
that's
know where
fair.
to come. Yeah, I don't know where the conversation broke down, but at the same time, look, I think at the end of the day, it's one of those things where it's like it's a business decision choosing between USC and Oregon, where you could go to USC, play nationally televised games, and be flashy, be dashy, all the rest of that stuff, and look good during the regular season here and there, and then get punched in the mouth, and then look like everything that you've built throughout the season get torn down because people say you're good, you're really good, but you're not elite. You know, and
Right.
then Lanny being able to come in there and probably having that conversation with him, his parents, his coaches, his family, and saying, I can get this kid to be elite. Look what I did at Georgia. Look what I'm doing now. Look at what we look like the first game of the season compared to all the way through the season. One game really away from being in the Pac-12 championship instead of USC. So
No, I'm with you there, man. And I do think that Flowers is looking at what Dan Lanning is doing there defensively. I mean, Lanning leading the way like he did at Georgia for as long as he did, and being able to grow his own world. So I'm curious to see what they look like. I mean, what it looks like for Oregon as the season progresses, and see what it looks like at National Signing Day. I don't
is he?
know if they keep him,
Uh,
but I do think that, like you mentioned, with relationships and stuff, I think we're going to still pursue him.
is he? I mean, here's the interesting thing. I mean, the summer hasn't even hit yet. We're still talking about the spring game. Maybe he doesn't come to the spring game, and maybe he comes to one of the summer events that OU is going to have. Maybe he does still take an official to OU or come down here on the unofficial. So I think that's something to say is that you keep it until he puts pen to paper. That's kind of where you're at.
Right, and that's exactly my thought process behind it too. Is until they go ahead and sign on the line, which is dotted, recruitment is still open. But for certain players, when they're locked in, and I think that Hawkins is he's done. We don't have to worry about him on the flake. But I know that with some of these other ones, we've got a lot of players to pursue. But another one that jumped out to me too on this is Bennett Warren. I noticed Bennett Warren and Stoney were hardcore on the eyeballs right when Michael Hawkins did his commitment. So Bennett Warren, the 6'7", 315-pound behemoth of offensive tackle
Mm-hmm.
that we're pursuing, and it looks like there's a lot of lean to us on that commitment, on that recruiting trail, and I'm pretty stoked to see that offensive line, the trenches, we're starting to
Mm-hmm.
heat up in that area. And the players that we want, it looks like we may be starting to get some wins coming soon. And I'm thinking that spring game,
Mm-hmm.
spring game, we'll probably see, I think, a couple of commitments at that point. You see anything coming at that time?
I wouldn't be surprised if we got maybe about 2 or 3 commits. I mean, there's some guys out there that I feel like are on the verge of doing that. Kind of like last year. I mean, we got a few commits. We didn't get all the commits that we thought we were going to get, but we did get some. I mean, look, OU is in a position right now. It's really interesting. It's like a partly cloudy day out there where
Yeah.
you see a bunch of rain clouds, but you also see some sun rays kind of shining through. The sun pokes his head out simply because people know what's on the other side of those clouds. it's just one of those things where OU has to go and make good, man. I'm more worried about September because I think that's going to be the time that you start seeing a lot of these kids really go ahead and focus on committing and shutting everything down.
Yeah.
And then another thing is, like I said, we kind of talked around it, but with the Flowers kid, going back to him, look, man, um, it's a different, and this is where I kind of go toe to toe with Ty on the recruiting model or module an awful lot. Is that, look, we tell kids no right now. Everybody else isn't. They're just picking up all the commits that they possibly can at this time before it's time for signing day. Us, we're like, no, go to every visit, do everything you want to. And then when you feel like we're the right match, then come back. Let's have a conversation. Let's go ahead and get that commitment. You get what I'm saying? So I just feel like it's different for us. But from, what I've seen and what I've heard, I do feel like there's at least 2 or 3 commitments out there that are solid right now that we can bank on getting at least by the spring game. And I think that's where a lot of people want to make that splash anyways.
I agree with you there. So spring game's going to be fun or whatnot. And as Jimmy asked the question, who's all visiting during spring game? Honestly, I've got some of a list that I've compiled based upon social media posts, but I do not have an official full one yet. I'm still working on it. So we'll have a show. I will talk about that, Jimmy, closer to spring and probably the week of. I think that's usually when they get the final confirmations of when people are going to come. I'll have a rough list definitely by that Friday and have a video up definitely by that Friday morning talking about who we think is going to be there or whatnot. And as Hank mentioned, Inwineri's definitely going to be at Colorado. That's when he scheduled that visit to go see the Buffs or whatnot. But I think that we've got that one. I think Inwineri's definitely one of the players that will end up here outside of the competition. So, and I kind of like this from Okie. This is a good point. After a good 9 or 10 year win, 9 or 10 win year this year, I think the recruiting will be better or whatnot, even better the year after that. And I agree. I mean, the good thing is we've had consistent 9 and 10 win seasons, and Sonny Brenneville's proves that he can do the same thing. The biggest thing is now getting some of these players that are some of the players that are looking at other big programs like your Ohio States, your Michigans, your Georgias, your Alabamas, and try to get them to go ahead and lock in a little bit earlier. Most of them do shop around a lot unless they're just completely locked in on the school, kind of like Jeremiah Newcomb as well as Michael Hawkins were pretty locked in on where they wanted to go. We just need to get some of these players to pull up from these other schools and get them to go ahead and lock in. So
we got to give them that validation, man.
Yeah, no, and that's fair. And that is very fair. That is very fair. That's not something that we can even argue with them, is that, they want to make sure things look good, make sure things are in the right path. And so far, everybody that's come in on their visits, that's all they talk about is not only the soul mission, but they just say it's feel like a different energy flowing around there. And I am pretty stoked about that. And so, what is up, Jason? Thanks for pulling up in the comments, man. We appreciate that. Smash that like button for your boy. And Kim got a good question here. I'm pretty intrigued by this one right here. All right. The Colorado scrimmage, is it just me or is the offensive line small? They're tall but skinny and the defense seems really small. Yes. We'll jump into a little Colorado real quick. Kim, you're 100% correct. And I honestly believe that is A, the Pac-12, and B, the Sean Lewis system. That fast, high-octane offense played in the high altitude. Yeah, they're going to be playing at such a pace that they have to have guys that are nimble and quick and that can handle high energy conditioning. And that to me is what's going to be your falter at the end. I mean, we've already seen the Grinch speed defense and trying that out. Once you go against the big boys, their 300-pounders can do that exact same thing. They may not handle Colorado altitude, but the good thing for them is they won't ever see it in a bowl game. they'll only see it if they ever visit in the regular season. And so I'm curious to see exactly. And they just picked up another guy, the Kent State transfer, another one, as Sean Lewis is basically bringing most of his players from Kent State over that's played in it. I'm curious to see what they look like long term. And so last one over here, Sooner Cowboys asking it, us getting Caden Durham. Chris, you think we got him? Because the way it looks, man, he looks like he's pretty locked in Oklahoma. He even retweeted the Michael Hawkins deal, and he was pretty excited about it.
I don't buy into all the retweets, but I mean, at the same time, you kind of have to say all eyes point towards it or whatnot. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, look at them. The kids are showing excitement behind a lot of these commitments. And it's funny because I went through David Stones, because we all know he's the quote unquote diva that, everyone laughs and picks at or makes comments about. But at the same time, he's a very highly touted defensive lineman. And when I went through his Twitter, man, majority of everything he has on there, whole bunch of Oklahoma retweets, whole bunch of Oklahoma comments, whole bunch of stuff. He's got some stuff for like Michigan State and a little bit, like I was at Miami, blah blah blah. But majority of what he's doing, when there's a commitment or an offer for Oklahoma, he's hitting up people. I mean, he sent that tweet, "Happy birthday to my teammate Phil Pachotti," which was hilarious because the thing to remember is that they played together at IMG. Last year, Phil left the North and went and played at IMG for a season, and they were actually teammates. So a lot of people were reading into it as him saying that, oh, he's going to be a teammate with Phil, as a commit. But no, they actually were teammates. So he knows how to play the line. I think he's just having fun because we're not letting him commit yet. We're making him go do visits. And the selling point I read recently that we've got to sell his moms too. And, moms is, of course, concerned. I'm guessing that's why he's at IMG is he wasn't running with the best crowd here. I mean, he's a big deal. So I'm guessing that, got to sell him and sell her on the idea that being here, he's taken care of with Coach Bates. But I think he'll be fine. Okay, let's see what else we got in here. Let's see what we got in here. Here's Devin asked the question about Stone. Try to commit twice. So this was out of his mouth. I read somewhere he said this in an interview that he tried. Moms wouldn't let him one time, and then the coaches at OU wouldn't let him either. And I think the big thing is they're trying to sell mom. Granted, I get it. If she's concerned, you got to remember once your kids get into high school and get a little bit further, for the most part, they're more influenced by their friends because they're the ones that are going to be around the most. They're the ones that hang out with. They spend the most time with. They're not going to sit underneath their parents nonstop. So yeah, you gotta. I can understand there being some concern in that capacity, depending on who he's hanging out with. You know what I'm saying? I get it, but I have heard that he has wanted to hit that button numerous times.
I think that in the end he's going to go to OU. I think that's it's inevitable. I think that OU's going to have a muster class. There was somebody who commented on here about that I want to say that Georgia linebacker.
Sammy Brown.
Yeah.
Here you go from Larry. Good point.
What's your thoughts about that?
Woo-wee. So it's Clemson's to lose, and it's only because of relationships that he has from being there all the time. Also, remember with Venables there, he spent a lot of time up there at Clemson as a kid. And so because of that, he has a relationship with just the campus itself fully and Dabo and the staff that's currently there. But he also has a really good relationship with Coach Venables. And so it's Clemson's to lose, but I think that we're trending a lot better than people think. He was here this past week. He spent 2 days, and he did take some pictures and put some tweets out about on whatnot the visit. And so it was flying. And then he's supposed to be doing an interview sometime soon with the 24/7 guys, and I think also with someone from On3. But it looks like we are in the race. We're no longer on the outside looking in. We are actually lined up on the lines racing with these other schools, mainly Clemson. I think Georgia might now be in the race, but there's a good chance they're probably on the outside looking in at us and Clemson. But I know that we're in the race, and that's the only thing I care about is that if we can continuously be in the race for these elite linebackers, my goodness, we're going to do some special stuff. Plus, our wide linebacker room this year looks really good. Kobe McKenzie, man. I am sold on him doing some stuff. And him and Lewis Carter. Good Lord. But what you think about Sammy? I know you've watched him and you've probably gotten excited just like everybody else. You think we got a chance?
I would say that we definitely got a chance. He came to campus. He looked good in the uniform. I said, hey, we cut the mullet, we'll be all right. But I said, with that kid right there and whatnot, hey, look, a lot of people are really, really big on him, the way he plays the position and all the rest of that. I'd be excited to have him because this linebacker room is crazy. And I mean, I don't know if I'm the only OU fan. I know a lot of OU fans out here excited about like the talent that we're bringing in, but doesn't it just feel different bringing in like stacking classes on top of talent? Like
Man, it's
actually having
weird.
fear that kids are going to transfer because it's just hard to get on the field because they have all these other kids in front of them that are that damn good, and not just transferring because they just can't cut the mustard here, so to say.
No,
It's
you're
just a
right.
different feel.
I'm totally with you, man. It feels great. And the one thing that feels the best about all of this is that this has been my thought about a lot of this is that Alabama's, your Georgia's, the big schools that we constantly talk about, when they get players in there, the reason why a lot of them don't really transfer or they don't transfer until they become graduates is because they know that all they need is 1 year of tape, just 1 year of tape, and they will be able to go to the NFL. And that's something that looks like we're building here now is we're getting so much talent that scouts will look at us and be like, oh man, that guy's so good that the guy behind him just can't get in right now. But when he gets in and he shows out, it's like, oh yeah, all we need is 1 year of tape, send you to the NFL. 24/7 put up the most players that went to the NFL, sent the schools that have sent the most kids to the NFL since 2000. We were like ninth at 113 players, tied with Michigan. And so we're sending kids to the NFL. Yeah. And guess who wasn't on that list? Texas, which is even funnier. Horns down. But we're sending them to the NFL, and it's all on them at that point to be successful. And so the good thing is that we're building that depth to where all you need is that 1 year tape. You get 1 year tape, you are golden. And I'm pretty stoked about that. And so I'm loving the questions that's popping up in here. All the questions that are popping up really are coming in exactly what we're going to jump into. So before we jump into the main event here, and this is what's going to take the longest, well, I want to give us at least 20 minutes on it. Gonna make that running back room. But hey, while you're here, hit that like button, hit the share button. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe. And of course, like I said, share. Why? Because sharing is caring. If you're listening to the audio version, go ahead and rate us, review us, and give us 5 stars. You don't think we deserve it? Just give us 5 anyway and gift it. Now, Chris, let's jump into the main event. We're going to talk about the running back room.
Let's do it.
So I saw a couple questions pop up in here asking about certain players in the running back room. And I'm going to go ahead and start starring some of these right now. But what I'm going to do first is, y'all know me. Y'all watch some of my live streams. I like visuals. So we're going to pop up here. Our folks over at Our Lads has given us a estimated depth chart for the spring game. But I went ahead and added some more flavor to it this time around. We're going to look at the running back room. Let's look at these players. So right now, Our Lads, of course, has Javonte Barnes, Gavin Sawchuk, and Marcus Major as our 3 running backs today that's in the main rotation. And granted, that makes the most sense because, one, Javonte Barnes did very well this past season at running back.
Yeah.
Gavin pulled up in the bowl game and said, hey, welcome party. Remember the name. I'm your dude. And then Marcus has been dealing with injuries for the last few years. And hopefully if he's healthy, I think there's a really good chance that he ends up, showing up and showing out. And so because of that, we are now at the point where, yeah, we got a nice little running back room. Chris, looking at this, does this look like the lineup you feel like we're going to get?
I'll know after spring. Hopefully that answers a lot of people's questions. I'll know after spring for sure.
So what sucks, though, for me is I don't think we're going to learn after spring. And I say that because Barnes won't be in. He had a surgery on his foot. Venables had mentioned it during his press conference, and he had a bone issue on his toe that had been bothering him since high school.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't something that really affected him. It was more of a not very invasive. They cleaned up some stuff, and now he should be better. But the thing about it is that he ain't probably coming back into the summer at all. So he's in a boot, he's got everything going or whatnot. He'll probably just train and stay in shape, but he's really not going to be running much up until the summer, which I think is fine, especially the way Schmitty works them out. So it's more so going to be Sawchuk. And honestly, I don't even think Sawchuk's going to run in the spring game. I know you would think, but I don't think they're going to run him. Like, it's at this point where you kind of think it's a default. And that's why I say, what do you think about now? Because I think that this is kind of set even past spring game. I think this is it. And now we're going to have to see what these other players look like coming down the line. So, like, we've got a nice little list of additional running backs on it. So let me pull up the rest of the players that we have. You've got the transfers in Emeka Megwa as well as Twaye Walker. And then you got all the freshmen that are early enrollees and Caleb Hicks as well as Dylan Smothers, who missed all of last season because he had knee surgery. So he didn't even play his senior year. And then Chapman McCown, who, the little 5'5", 5'7" monster that's probably could potentially be another Deuce Vaughn if he continues to maintain his strength. I'm curious to see who's going to potentially steal some time. Because this is our running back room, besides all of the walk-ons and PWOs that we're going to have coming in the summer that are in track right now, like Braylon Colgrove or whatnot. You think any of especially the transfers here, Megwa and Tyree Walker, you think either one of them can crack the lineup?
I wouldn't be surprised about Tyree. I know in Mecca was a high 4-star out of high school himself.
He was.
He's going to have an opportunity. I think all these running backs are going to have an opportunity to really establish themselves. I think Tyree Walker got some time last year, and I think that he can grow on that. I think with Tyree is that he doesn't do anything wrong, It's just one of those things about getting the production that everybody else sees when the popcorn is going, because that's kind of where I wanted to see.
Yep.
I think that I would not be surprised if you heard often from Hicks, to be honest with you. Wouldn't be surprised if you heard often from Smothers as well. I think those are two kids right there that, you're hearing DeMarco talk about an awful lot. I think Smother has all the ability in the world to go out there and steal time from some kid. My uncle thinks that he's gonna steal time from Bournes, and I'm like, nah, it's not happening. I think Bournes and Sawchuck are gonna be there, and it's up to Marcus Majors if Marcus Majors is gonna play this year, because it's just injuries. Last year to start the season, he looked pretty damn good, but going back to the freshman, though, like I told you guys, look, I think Chapman McCown is a guy that, hey, he's another Gavin Freeman. That's what I see him as. Guy who swing passes, guy that could get out there in space, possibly do some stuff on some jet sweeps, different things like that you can use in the special teams as well early on to get him that experience. But Dylan Smothers, let's be real. Hollywood coming out of North Carolina, highly touted. Caleb Hicks is a guy that's coming out of that. Was it Denton Ryan or didn't? No, it wasn't.
Didn't Ryan. He was Denton Ryan because Geyer is a competition. Yeah, and Jackson Arnold.
Looking at him in pads, he looks every bit ready for the college level right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that being said, I'm looking more at those guys, but like I said early on, I wouldn't be surprised if it's Tyree Walker, if the Emeka kid. Didn't the Emeka kid, isn't he coming off of a knee injury? Is he an active participant in spring right now?
He still has the knee deal. He had surgery at Washington. Well, actually, he never went to Washington. He ended up having surgery, I think, back home in Texas. And then that's when he did the transfer and showed up here in August. And he's been rehabbing ever since. So I believe he'll be ready this summer or come season. But I've seen him moving around. I saw him practicing during the bowl game, and I've seen him do some stuff. But I think that it's going to take some time for us to get him going. But honestly, man, I think Meg was the one that, if there's anybody that has jumped out to me that I think is going to find a way on the field, is him. He's a big dude at 6 foot. They got him listed here as 6 foot 205, but I think he's bigger than that. He actually, I think he has the capabilities of being bigger than that. I think he's that size now only because he had surgery and he couldn't really get as much lifting in. You know what I'm saying? And so now as he's getting more healthy, I think he's going to literally pack on the pounds. I think he's going to go out there and do some stuff. Yeah. He's the one player I'm looking out for. Like Tyree's thick dude at 5'9", 213. seeing him, he's a bowling ball, man. He reminds me of Quentin Griffin back when we had him. And to me, you can put him out there with a good set of guards that can pull, and that dude can probably get you 12 yards of carry. I think that he has that ability just because he can stay low to the ground, low center of gravity. He's strong, run through folks. He can get you some 12 yards on a regular basis and probably average like 6 a carry. I'm curious to see how we use him this coming season too. And then of course, because we've got the main guys with Barnes, with Sawchuk, and Major. The question that was asked on here, I think, was a great one to be asked is, do we think that Major is going to have an all-time season if he doesn't get hurt? This is the year. This is it. I think that this is the year. If we get it from Marcus Major, it has to be this season.
Now,
go ahead, bro. Go ahead. I was going to say, I think he's working his butt off to get to that point, but I do feel like if this is the year, this is the one. Go ahead, Chris.
Here's my problem with that, okay? We saw what Eric Gray did last year, winning a lot of his one-on-ones. And I mean, that's what this offense, this is what this run game for Lebby is predicated on. Let's get our running back a one-on-one matchup. If that guy misses and we have the right blocks, we're off to the races.
Yeah.
It's either a 20, 30, 40-yard gain or it's a touchdown. Like that's what that run game, that's what Lebby's trying to set up in the run game with his scheme. I've seen what Sawchuk, I've seen what Javonte Barnes. I know it was just one game from Sawchuk, but I saw enough. And I've seen it from Javonte Barnes during the season and know those guys can win those one-on-one battles. I don't know with Major. And I'm only saying that because Major is such a north-south runner that I've never seen him do anything else. If he can get around, if he can find a hole, he'll go through it. But he's all about contact. He's all about, he's going to be the aggressor. He's going to hit somebody before they hit him. And that's great, but I just have never really seen him win kind of that one-on-one battle. I'm not talking about just running somebody over. I'm talking about, having that wiggle to do a jump cut, get around, and then pick up another, 15, 20 yards. I just haven't really seen that. So I'm a big Marcus Majors fan. I think that he has the ability. It's just, will we see that? That's kind of what I'm waiting to see.
That's a good question. Yeah, that's a good point. So, maybe being asked this question, would we benefit from a running back by committee approach rather than focusing on a starter and a backup? I think that's what we're going to do. We did that this past season, and this is something I may mention. I want to point this out, as we go into this conversation. I talk about how our boy Dylan Gabriel could scoot. You didn't want to talk about how he could scoot. Dylan Gabriel was the third leading rusher on this team at 461 yards. And that was when we did not want to run him. And we had a good stable of running backs. But when he ran, that man can run. He can scoot. I know you don't want to admit it, Chris. I know you don't want to give him the love. But I think that we can run more with him than we could before, especially now that we got depth at quarterback, man. I mean, 461 yards ain't nothing to sneeze at for the games that he played.
Bro, we got one quarterback in that room behind him. We still don't have the depth.
I think Booty will be fine this year. I think Booty's fine this year. We'll probably unfortunately play Bevel if we have to, but Jackson Arnold's there too. I think we're fine now. I think we're good.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and shut this down. All right. So I'm a guy that loves to read the tea leaves. I'm a guy that loves to, to sip the tea and see what's going on. I watched that Florida State game an awful lot, and every time I watch the Florida State game, I go to the comments and I say, "Oh damn, I didn't see that comment." You see a lot of, "This is a better Oklahoma team than what was advertised. This Oklahoma team is going to do great next year." That was a damn good game. Oklahoma won. Oh my gosh, just finally we beat Oklahoma. Then you see a couple of comments talking about, man, it really looks like that Oklahoma quarterback is running with a piano tied to his back. And you're sitting there just like, yeah, it does. It does. Look, again, like I said, Jay, you have to understand, there are athletes. There are guys like Kyler Murray's. There are Blazers.
We can't compare them though.
We can't put them in there. That's what I'm saying.
No,
Joel
I'm fine with
Clark is
that.
so perfect about guys like Dylan Gabriel, guys like Baker Mayfield. They're willing runners. They're willing runners, but they're not like, oh my gosh, these dual threat quarterbacks. I'm not sure if him running is going to help us all that much because one, he's injury prone. We saw that last year, and then two, he's just
Injury
not that
prone.
fast in space.
He got hit with a late hit. And outside of that, he didn't miss any games. Besides him getting hit with that pretty illegal dirty shot, and we know TCU had taken out just about every quarterback they played
That's
this
a good point.
season.
That's a good point.
That's the
point.
only injury we had. You can't call a man injury prone when he got hit with a dirty hit that they kept doing to every quarterback they played. But no, I'm saying this. I'm not saying we're going to run a whole bunch of just QB options nonstop and make him like 1,000-yard rusher. No, I'm not saying that. But I do think that 461 that he got, I think he's going to end up with closer to 600 next season. And I say that because all that does is open up the run game for the rest of the running backs. If the quarterback can show a little bit of threat that he's going to get 5 or 6 yards on a rush on a regular basis, that's going to do nothing but help us, especially when we do play action. And you know that. You know what I'm saying? That's my point behind, I think, having enough depth to where we're comfortable with running the ball with the quarterback will lead to us. I mean, hell, Gabriel was running in some touchdowns too, man. He had 6 rushing touchdowns.
No,
So
I'm not denying
you know what I'm saying?
I don't think that he's a threat in that he's a dual threat with his legs. I mean, I don't know, man.
I'm not saying he's a dual threat. I'm not saying that he's not. Okay, let me pull this back. He's not what we're used to at quarterback.
Yeah.
He's not the tradition. He is more back to the Sam Bradford quarterback that we had. That's how far back he basically goes and what we're used to at having quarterback here. He's not, he's not the runners like the Baker. I mean, Baker's a willing runner and he could run in college. He was a scrambler and he knew how to not get leveled. He has that baseball background. And I think Jackson Arnold has that exact same thing where he won't get himself leveled, but he's also way more athletic in comparison to Baker. And so my thing is with the running backs here, having him being able to at least in the RPO, we actually have the option where the quarterback runs it. It's going to just do nothing to open up all these running backs. So, like, as the comment that came in here before about us doing a running back by committee, I totally see us having a running back by committee set up here because why not? It makes so much sense to have when you have a room with this many guys right here that's just chilling and you've got other preferred walk-ons coming that honestly size-wise are about their size. Braylon Colgrove is probably the running back that I'm the most excited about on the PWO side. He had knee surgery 22 weeks ago, and he ran a 10.41 in track recently. A 10.41. 22 weeks after surgery. And I think his surgery was catastrophic. When I went back and looked at there's like a Facebook video his mom put up, like they was kind of chronicling his injury and recovery or whatnot. He tore multiple ligaments, and I think his meniscus. It was pretty brutal. This dude came back 22 weeks and he ran a 10.41 track on 100. Y'all love speed. I love speed. That's a Gavin Sawchuk type. So I think Gavin ran like a 10.39 back in high school. So, yeah, we're going to do nothing but add to that room. That room is going to be thick this year.
The competition. I mean, what you don't want to do is go out there and have to be so reliant on one running back. There were games where it just felt like, damn, I mean, great, hey, look, as good as Gray was last game, it's just not really happening this game right here. We're dancing a little bit too much. We're doing this, we're doing that, to give them those different looks or whatnot. You need a guy like Marcus Majors to really, really be healthy this year. That way you can depend on him for being that bruiser, those short yardage plays. If we're not going to make the game compact and we're still going to spread it out on the offensive line, you need a guy like that who can come in who's north and south and can go ahead and get those tough yards. But then again, a lot of it, and I'll be interested to get your take on the offensive line, but Jay, you and I will agree on this for sure. If we could be physical on both sides of the ball in the interior on the trenches, we're going to be just fine. And I think that's something that last year you didn't see all that much. Now, although when things were clicking, we did get those one-on-one looks, but there was still
That's true.
There's still a lot left to be a lot left to the imagination on some of those blocks that weren't picked up or that we did pick up, but we're just not physical enough, you know. And it's the whole thing about all those penalties or whatnot as well. But man, I think like a guy like Savion Bird, I'm telling you, man, if he is starting next to Rain, that is what Rain needs to really take his game to the next level. He needs guys that he has to say, okay, I have to match their level of physicality out here. I can't get pushed back. I can't get beat. I have to match their physicality. Another thing, Jimmy just made me think of this as well with his comment, too many running backs. Let's take many out there and let's say 2 running backs. Hopefully we can get to some of those split sets with these running backs as well.
Ooh,
that would be an interesting wrinkle to the offense as well. I've seen him do it a couple of times. Haven't seen him do it all that much, but it would really be nice if you could have a 2 running back, like a split back set out there where you could work that in, give the defense a different look than what they're used to.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm with you on that. That split back is very interesting because, man, when is the last time we actually did that?
Lincoln. I mean, I'm just gonna be real. You know, back in the Lincoln area, especially last year, I was like, damn, we haven't really ran a lot of split back, and that's what that's really where we're the best at. That's split back. But I really like that set, and I think that if the running backs are doing what they need to do, man, you could really throw a lot of defenses off of what they're trying to do. Because I think Sawchuck, I think that Bournes, I think Majors, we've seen them all do what they can catch out of the backfield. So swing passes, different things like that, being able to run up there's all types of options that you can have with that. So if they're clicking, I don't see why you couldn't run the split back sets with those with the running backs that we have. But man,
that's true.
I'll be honest with you. My uncle and I, we kind of go back and forth over this. He's big on Smothers. He's big on Hollywood. I'm big on Hicks. I actually like Hicks a lot. I think.
Me too.
I think, yeah, Hicks strikes me as that guy that is Kennedy Brooks.
Ooh.
Just a guy who gets it done. You know, that's who he strikes me as. You know, I really like him for some reason. You know, I went back and actually watched some tape on. I was like, man, I think he's going to be a solid running back at OU. Not even saying superstar, but I think he's going to be a solid running back. I think that he's just really versatile. I think he can do a lot of things, and I think that he has a chance.
Okay, yeah. I mean, he is sizey. I mean, he's about 200 pounds already at 5'11". So he's definitely a running back, almost NFL size. He needs to add about 20 pounds, and he probably could be like a Kennedy Brooks. And so Matt asked a pretty solid question: does OU get dominant on both sides of the line? And I'm gonna say, yeah, man. Tyler Guyton. We talked about the line last week, really the trenches heavily, and I think I'm gonna probably do another. We may do another live right before the spring game and talk about the trenches even more. But kind of like you mentioned about Savion Bird, I think he's gonna get in there. Rhyme's gonna he's gonna up his game to keep up with Savion, and then Tyler Guyton's gonna lead everything on that right side. He's gonna be the blind side guy at 6'7". He has done nothing but improve dramatically. And my hot take on him is that he ends up being a first-round draft pick off the offensive line when he's draft eligible. So probably next season, I think that he ends up being a first-round pick. One of the first 2, if not first 3 offensive tackles taken in the draft, he will be a first-rounder. He's that special. He figured it out. That when we got him in, he was raw. And then he just walked out there and figured it out right behind Wanya Morris, and then just got good. It just kept getting better. And yeah, I see him as something special. And so I think in the trenches wise and on both sides of the ball, I like Marcus Hicks moving over to back to the defensive line. And I think that he'll be able to be a little bit more impactful as long as he's healthy. But if anything, as we talk about these backs, I'm really, really, really hoping that Major stays healthy. He's able to be healthy and he's able to show out, because I think that if anybody needs this year, it's him. This is the year that's going to get him drafted.
It's definitely him. He's going to be a late round guy. People, let's not kid ourselves. But he's a guy that, for me, it's can you be draft eligible and actually be drafted opposed to being an undrafted free agent, rookie free agent, which
Yeah.
either one is not really a bad situation nowadays. Guys will find you. I mean, hell, Belichick has been doing that for the longest, but no,
Preach that all the time, man.
yeah, I think this is a do or die year for guys like Marcus Majors. I would even put that on Woody Washington. I would put that on guys like Marcus Stripling as well. I mean, there's a bunch of guys that are upperclassmen on this team that you could say it's a do or die year for them, simply because you gotta get a good year of film. You gotta say, look, I've dealt with injuries in the past. I've dealt with a coach. I've dealt with a coaching change. I've been coached by a linebacker, and opposed to, you see what I'm doing now. So
right.
And the measurables got to be better. Shout out to all the guys that compete that were a part of the combine here, the OU Pro Day or whatnot. But numbers, measurables, all the rest of that stuff got to keep going up. Got to keep going better. So.
Major got the size though, man. 6'2", almost 230, man. He's a big, strong back. We just gotta make sure he's healthy. Make sure just whatever it is we got to do, keep him healthy, because I think that this is the year he can bring his impact. And as it was mentioned in here, was Thunder, Lightning, and Flash. Marcus is gonna be your Thunder. Your Lightning's gonna be Barnes, and Flash to me is Sawchuk. Sawchuk just goes. That dude is just so fast, so quick, and hitting the hole. And again, as long as we can get healthy with the rest of those players in that backfield, man, we've got some special stuff brewing. If there's any position that I have been just ecstatic and excited and no concerns about whatsoever, is this running back room. Because last season, man, we were, as a top 13 offense, it was all because of the run game. We were running the ball beautifully all season in this Levy system. And so adding just even more talent to it. And, of course, I ate a whole bunch of crow with Eric Gray. Never said Eric Gray was bad. I just had concerns about him being number one, and then he runs out and gets 1,300 yards rushing in the season. So that shut me up. So it tells me that the system can definitely produce it. If there's a guy that I doubt, even though Eric Gray is really talented, I doubted him, and they're able to go push out 1,300 yards out of him. We can do that with the rest of these players. So I'm stoked about it. I'm excited. It's getting late. I don't want to hold everybody up because I want to go get some other stuff done. So, Chris, thank you for pulling up as usual. Let the people know where to find you.
Horns Down Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, all of that. You see it on the ticker down below. Horns Down Pod on Twitter, and at Chris with a K on Twitter. Definitely check us out. Like I said, Tuesday night. One of these nights, this next week, we're going to be doing a show talking about quarterbacks, talking about the quarterback room, kind of a little bit of a different talk. Just kind of just going to talk about, hey, Dillon Gabriel. Do we want him to be the staple for us going into the SEC, or do we think it's time to find an heir apparent and go from there? So definitely tune in, check us out, be looking on Twitter or whatnot. Follow, like, subscribe to our channel, and do the same for this channel right here. Press that like button right now for sure.
I appreciate it. Yeah, definitely. Horns Down Podcast, go hard. I should be on there with Chris and the team. Make sure you guys hit that like button while you're here. This is one of the last episodes in our installment of going through the depth chart. We will do quarterbacks next Sunday as we prepare for the spring game, and then we may go ahead and do one more quick one in between to talk more about the trenches. But Sunday, definitely we'll dive into our quarterback room, look at the stats, look at the players, and I will argue for Dillon Gabriel like I always do. But we're going to have a great time and have fun. So thank y'all for pulling up. Hit the like, subscribe, bell notification, and outside of that, we will see you all, I don't know, in a couple of days. Peace.